Hello everyone. In last lecture, we have seen inertial and non-inertial frame of reference. So today we will start the next point, Newton's laws of motion. So we know Newton has proposed three laws of motion: first law of motion, second law of motion, and third law of motion. So today we will discuss the first law of motion. So Newton has proposed, why he proposed these three laws, these three basic physics laws. Okay. So he proposed this because we need to understand the motions of bodies on planet Earth, or like motion of atoms and molecules, motion of regular, in everyday life we see so many motions. So we need to understand these motions and the force. So these physical quantities we need to understand, and hence Newton proposed three basic laws of motion. So let's take first Newton's first law of motion. Newton's first law of motion. To understand this first law, let's consider one example. So we know book kept on a table. Okay, in a room, book kept on a table or a chair placed in a room will remain in its state of rest. Okay, the book is in state of rest now. Okay, so it will not change its state of rest until we apply force. Okay, it will not change its state of rest on its own. Okay, so we have to apply force to change its state of rest. Next example, consider a car moving on a road. Okay, with uniform velocity. Now car is in a uniform motion. This book is in a rest motion. Okay, rest position or state of rest, and consider a car in a motion, uniform motion. Uniform motion. So car in a uniform motion does not change its uniform motion unless we apply force, or it does not change its state of uniform motion on its own. So we need force to change this state of motion. Okay, so any state of motion, any body, any physical body will not change its state of rest or this state of uniform motion on its own. We need to apply force. Hence this whole idea is summarized in Newton's first law of motion. So what we understood? Any physical body which is in a state of rest or the state of uniform motion, it will remain in its state, whatever the state it is rest or it will be a uniform motion. Then it will not change its state of rest or the state of uniform motion. It will remain in that state until we apply force. So this we summarize in Newton's first law of motion. So what is the statement of Newton's first law of motion? Statement is every physical body, let's take every physical body will not change its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line. We can take in a straight line. Okay, a particular arranged manner. Okay, straight line. So every physical body will not change its state of rest or state of uniform motion in a straight line unless or until acted upon external unbalanced force. External unbalanced force. So this is Newton's first law of motion. What it is? Every physical body will not change its state of rest or the state of uniform motion in a straight line unless acted upon by external unbalanced force. So body will not change its state of rest or state of uniform motion on its own, and hence we have to apply force. Okay. we have to apply force. So this is Newton's first law of motion. What is Newton's first law of motion? It will not change, a physical body will not change its state of rest or the state of uniform motion in a straight line on its own, and hence this is until external force is applied. So we need to apply external force to change body's state of rest or the state of uniform motion. So this is Newton's first law of motion. From Newton's first law of motion, we can define inertia as well as force. These two physical quantities, inertia and force, we can explain using Newton's first law of motion. So, in these two examples, we have seen that body will not change its state of uniform motion or rest until external force is applied. So, we will see what is inertia. So, we have seen the body will not change its state of rest or the state of uniform motion until external force is applied. So, this property, this tendency to not change its present state of rest or the state of uniform motion on its own, this property, this tendency of any physical body is called as inertia. So, not to change, we can write not to change on its own. So this property is inertia. So for example, let's say table, consider a table, there is a cloth arranged here, and put some dishes on the table, okay? Some dishes on the table, some pots, okay? Some material bodies are there, okay? Now, if we apply, if we give a sudden jerk to this cloth in the horizontal direction, only cloth, okay? If you give a sudden jerk to this cloth, what will happen? The cloth will come out easily, okay? Or it will come out without disturbing the pots or the bodies on the surface of a table. So what we are doing, we are applying force to only the cloth, not the material body. And hence we can see they are not changing their state of rest until we have applied force. We are not applying force to these bodies, the pot or the material bodies. We are applying force to this cloth. So until we don't apply force to this body, these bodies will not change their state of rest. So this is due to their property inertia. Okay. So this is a very good example to understand inertia, because we are not applying the force directly to the pot or to the bodies, and hence they are not changing their position of rest. So we are applying force only to the cloth in a horizontal direction. That means they are not getting disturbed. So this is a very good example to understand inertia. Now let's take another example. If you are traveling in a bus, then if you jump from the bus suddenly, okay? If you jump from the bus suddenly, what will happen? Your body will be in a state of uniform motion with the bus. But when your feet touches the ground, what will happen? Your feet will your feet will stop, okay? Stop the motion. But your upper body will go in the direction in which the bus was moving. And what will happen? Your body will fall in the direction in which the bus was moving. So this is also a good example of inertia, because your body was in a uniform motion with the bus. When you was inside the bus, it was in a uniform motion. But when you jumped from the bus, your legs stopped. Okay, but your body, due to the inertia, it is inactive. It is resistive to change its original state of uniform motion, and hence you will fall. So this is a very good example to understand the uniform motion, to understand the inertia in a uniform motion. So these are the two examples to understand the inertia. Now let's understand the concept force. So we see body is inactive or it is inert to change its original or whatever the state it is in, rest or a uniform motion. Now, this property or this tendency of any physical body is known as inertia. But the physical quantity, now we have to define force. So, the physical quantity which changes the state of rest or uniform motion of a body is known as force. So, what is force? We know the physical quantity which changes the state of rest or the state of uniform motion of a body. Okay, so force is very easy when you understand the inertia. Inertia is what? The tendency or the property of a body not to change its original state of rest or the state of uniform motion, whatever it is. Okay, so this is inertia, the tendency of a body. But what is the force? It is a physical quantity which changes the state of rest or the state of uniform motion of any material body or any physical body. So this is how we define inertia and force from using the Newton's first law of motion. In next lecture, we will discuss second law of motion.